Are we ready?
Sure.
Episode 12 of the Toe the Redline podcast.
And we're out walking. And what are we doing? We're
wandering,
which is important at times. So
Yes.
What does it mean? So if you look at the definition of to wander, it means pretty much to move about without purpose or without aim, which sounds bad initially. But we were thinking about it, and a lot of times what we do is, as humans, we get caught up into the current of whatever's going on, right? So I was talking to Adam, and like, think about the friends you had in middle school, right? Like, you had good, great friendships until you guys weren't going to the same school, you know? And then all of a sudden you forget about them.
Or you
right?
adopted different behaviors and hobbies
Yep.
that didn't align.
Yeah. But what got you together in the first place, these tight, good friendships and relationships, was just your proximity, right? So if you'd have stayed in middle school your whole life, you might have kept those same friends, because that's just what we did. That was the flow. That was where we were at. So it's good to get out, to get into new, different places, but to, in a way, have an intent to do that. So we don't get stuck with a job that the only reason we have it is because we haven't looked anywhere else, or get stuck in a relationship where we just haven't looked anywhere else. So it's good to take time in your life. When we say wander, it's like just to get out and experience new things where I'm not trying to accomplish anything necessarily. I'm just trying to get in new information and take in new things to broaden our experience.
Not have a certain bias either with that.
Yes, because a lot of times you will have that. It's like, oh, I wouldn't like that. I wouldn't like that. I wouldn't like this. Well, I've never done it. Like, it's probably not a great idea to have that bias without having engaged in it to some degree, unless we're talking about balut. You know what balut is?
No, what is that?
It's a Chinese dish where it's eggs that are fermented for 10 to 100 years. Ooh. And there's like actually a baby duck in there.
Sounds like a Toe the Redline challenge.
Yeah, it sounds like a stomach ache. Is what it sounds like. But,
so with the phrase, not all who wander are lost, we covered what it means to wander. What is it? Why is lost in that statement?
I think you can have an intent and a plan and be lost. I think you can have the wrong intent and plan, right? My parents got divorced. There's a lot of people who get divorced, right? They had an intent, they had a plan. It wasn't the right plan.
Sure.
Right? So even though they had a route and they had a direction and they took steps towards it, it was the wrong thing. And people do that all the time with jobs or with, lots of things. But all of a sudden you talk about what they say, midlife crisis, right? Where you're halfway through and it's like, I don't like any of the things that I've done. I just have been doing them for so long that I keep doing them, right? So even though there was a plan and there was action and you're working and you're being productive, it doesn't mean you're not lost. It doesn't mean you're on your correct path. So it's good to take time, and you can also wander too much as well. Like, there's a balance to the whole thing, right? We can be too restricted and straight line and just going at one thing consistently, which is great if that's the right thing, right? But you can also do the same thing where we're not doing anything, we have no aim, but it's good to have a little bit of a mix at times of both. Now, if you know what you're doing is right, you have the right relationship, you have the right purpose, you got a goal with life, like, great. But if you're doing stuff and you're not happy, that's a bad way to say it too. Because there's times in your relationship you're not going to be happy.
Right.
That's how it is. But
if you're doing things and you're losing the perspective of taking in different pieces of information and taking in different viewpoints, you're limiting your experience. We talk about this in basically every episode of Toe the Red Line. Why would we ever want to put the blinders on of a new experience? And I know we talk about having purpose and direction, but sometimes there is good in wandering with a purpose. That might sound contradicting, but when we wander, we learn different things that we may not have, first off, had that sense of intelligence.
Yeah, we haven't had that experience, or
sides.
we haven't had, his arm's getting tired. He's all swelled up on one side. Having defined set direction is good when it's a good direction, okay? That's benefiting us, that's enhancing our life in all ways, where we're not feeling lost or purposeless or what's the other word I'm looking for? We're having constant anxiety, right? Like, that's where we might not be on the right path anyways, okay? So it's good just taking new information anyways. And like he said, not being biased, right? Yeah, so take time out occasionally just to, like, especially today, it's such a nice day. We don't gotta have purpose. We don't gotta count our calories or steps.
Yeah.
We're just getting out here and we're just wandering. I'm just enjoying life, feeling the breeze, seeing what we see, doing something different. He's never been to this park before. It's a pretty nice park, right?
Yeah.
If we wouldn't have taken time to wander, you'd have never known about this park.
And I think there's so much impact in that because me, myself, I'm in a stage of my life where everything is so regimented, and I'm naturally pretty regimented, and I can neglect the opportunity to wander or to just kind of hang out with friends, call my parents because I feel like, oh, that's not getting me to where I want to be. But sometimes those things, you might not know exactly where you want to be, and calling up your parents or calling up an old friend or just hanging out or going on a walk at the park that you've never been.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much benefits to that experience that you didn't know would happen. And how many experiences or instances have you ran into where you were like, you said after, you know what, I'm really glad that I did that, or I'm really glad that I went to that party or went to that get together. I was kind of anxious or worried about it, but I felt good afterwards. Going.
Yeah, that's a lot of times. Or there's a lot of experiences where, I don't know if I want to, I'm trying to think of an example, skydive or whatever, but then after you do it, it's like, man, this was great. Right. That's some of our biggest experiences. It's because we didn't do that thing in the first place because of fear or worry of this thing's going to be disgusting or whatever it is. But I have numerous friends that hadn't skydived just because of the fear of it. But then after they did it, they said literally it was one of the most amazing, exhilarating experiences of their lives. But they got beyond the fear and they just gave it a go.
I think that's critical, getting beyond the fear of the unknown, because wandering, that is literally, probably by definition, wandering is going in uncharted territories that you're not comfortable with. And that's what we're going back to is sometimes it's going to be uncomfortable wandering and going out of your zone of what you know, but there's so much growth and experiences and different knowledge that can be learned from that.
Yeah, and this is not even just with your physical location or activities, but what information do you read, right? If you only read nonfiction, well, it's one thing, it's even with fiction, it can create connections, right? Gives you something to talk about with someone that you maybe never met before, right?
Yeah.
And
it's
also,
not even real life.
Yes, it's all fake, but it also opens our imagination to different things. Even if it's fiction, you can read this and you can look at the world in a different way, potentially, which may help you in other stuff. Mm-hmm. But you look at old fiction, go read Starship Troopers. The movie was a summer, a no-brain summer action film. The book is phenomenal, and it predicted a lot of stuff, social stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know, the guy was onto something.
There's so many, The Simpsons.
Yeah.
There's so much, controversy and things that align with things that happen in real life, and you can see parallels and themes that, happen, and it's all just fiction, things that are kind of made up.
But a lot of what we do is think about where you want to be in 5 years, right? Technically that's fiction. It's not real.
100% it's
100%,
fiction.
right?
Yeah.
But you see a path and you see some things and it just opened your mind to some possibilities, and now you put these things together and then we end up with that, thinking about the first person who came up with a car or something, right? There wasn't a car. He had to have all this idea in his head, all this opportunity, and he put it all together, right? So it's fiction and stuff like that provides a benefit as well because it keeps our mind open to new things, to things that we can't see, to potential. And I think that's important.
Big. Going outside the box allows you to see more potential. What's the point of doing what you know? You've already kind of seen that ceiling.
Yep.
It's going beyond that ceiling in different areas. Flipping on the light in that attic, you can see, oh wow, there's a lot more ceiling that I haven't surpassed, only because I've never even experienced this activity.
Agreed. And no matter how well versed you are, how well traveled, there's always going to be more to see. There's so much to see everywhere. Like I said, you drive by this pace every day.
Yeah.
Every day, right? And I know so many people, this is Fort Griffith Park. It's a great park. No one's ever out here. But I mean, right there's West Market. People drive by it every day. It's awesome. It's one of my favorite parks, but most people don't even know about it. And it's right under our noses, right? There's stuff everywhere that's just under our noses.
And I don't think we'll ever be able to know things. I think you're delusional if you think you're going to know everything and know where everything is. And even just coming back, rereading the Bible, rereading different verses, you're always learning something new. And in a way, that's kind of wandering.
Yeah.
You're going back to the same place, but with the hopes of learning something new.
Yeah.
I feel like that can also be deemed as wandering.
Yeah, and just having an open mind, like wandering. We're just having an open mind. Whatever we see, we see. We've seen some ducks. We've seen this, right?
Turtles.
But now we saw a bunch of turtles.
Family of them.
But now think about this with like when you have a political discourse with somebody, right? You come in there with a purpose and a direction, and I'm trying to change this person's mind or whatever. Sometimes we gotta just wander. Go in there and just hear them. Hear a different perspective. Let them talk.
Not have an agenda.
Not have an agenda. Just let them talk, and maybe they're onto something that we didn't know.
Yeah.
Right? It's like we always think that we're the one that has the special knowledge and the right knowledge, and it's like it's probably not true.
Maybe going into it would probably benefit you to go into a conversation or an interaction probably believing that you are wrong, because then you have the idea that, okay, I probably am opening up my ears to what could be right.
Yes. Yeah. If you go into everything thinking you're wrong, I would imagine we would take in more information at least. You know, it doesn't mean you have, once again, just because you're open to it or you're listening to somebody, it doesn't mean you have to change your mind. But it's impossible to change your mind if you don't have any new information either, right? And once again, just like I'm in this job for 40 years that I don't necessarily like having the wrong opinion or the wrong thought on something because I'm not willing to look anywhere else, that's probably not the best for our overall growth and our overall experience. We're just choosing it because that's what we know and it's safe and it's comfortable and this is great, right? Well, what if it's wrong? What if what you're believing is wrong? People believed for a long time the earth was flat or that it was the center of the universe. People believed that, what was that? It was called transmutation. They used to think that mice would be created from, it was like potato sacks. Because like anytime people would put potato sacks down, there'd be families of mice that'd be there the next day. And people thought, well, it wasn't that the mice were moving in, it was the potato sacks created mice. Like, these are not the right thoughts, and people have to have different thoughts to, come about at what's real and what's true. And all the stuff that we know today, in 5 years will be proven wrong.
Yeah.
Almost assuredly, no matter how
Especially
smart we are.
nowadays with technology and stuff, it's getting exponentially, the growth is exponential.
Yeah. Like, what was it? Bleeding, like leeches and stuff. Like that was a cure to stuff. You want to get rid of bad blood. So your doctor, who's an expert, and I'm not saying we don't trust experts, but it's not bad to open your mind to some other stuff too, because maybe experts can be wrong as well. Like we can look through history and that's true.
I've heard many different times from different people that you shouldn't be the one to call yourself an expert. The moment you think you're an expert,
Yeah.
you're limiting yourself. Other people
Agreed.
can deem you as an expert just based off of comparing you to other people's knowledge. But if you think that you're an expert, you're
Sorely mistaken.
very sorely mistaken, and you're just putting a ceiling on yourself.
Agreed, because once you think you know everything or know most things, you're gonna be real resistant to other things. And once again, if the path you're on is the right path, maybe that's good. But what if we're wrong? I just saw a study yesterday, after all this talk over the last, 10 years, about electronic vehicles. They just did a study, and it was in New York Post, Washington Post, I don't remember. And they said that EV vehicles actually have more emissions than regular combustion cars. And I'm not saying it's true, I'm not saying anything, but there's things that we can learn, things that seem to make sense, but are not, actually when we look at it, they don't make sense.
Right,
You know?
on the cover, it looks like it would be this thing, but when you actually open the book and see what's inside, it's different.
Yeah, it's different than what you think. But the only way we can find that out is
Wandering.
We gotta look into it.
If you wander, you're not lost.
Well, sometimes you can be.
You can be.
I was gonna say, we were gonna do a video where we were actually lost at the end. It's like, okay, we actually are lost, but
Putting aside everything we said, guys, we're going to be honest, we're lost.
we're lost. We're all lost in a way. It's okay.
Told the Redline podcast.
And
And
Those people are looking at us weird.
good.
Good for them.
We don't care.
It's good.
All right,
We'll see
guys.
you guys soon.
See you later.